Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt exhausted without knowing why? Not because the other person yelled or insulted you. In fact, they were gentle, kind, even complimented you with what seemed like genuine warmth. And yet, after leaving, you felt empty, uncertain about yourself, and vaguely uneasy. That's not your imagination. That's a sign you may have just encountered someone with a dark-hearted nature, carefully disguised under a mask of kindness, concern, and friendliness. A dark heart doesn't always reveal itself openly. These people don't slam doors, raise their voices, or insult you outright. They choose their words carefully. They say exactly what you want to hear, then slowly slip into your emotions, pull you down, and make you forget your own worth. Sometimes it's the co-worker who praises you while quietly sabotaging your chances. Sometimes it's the family member who says they love you while controlling and draining you little by little every single day. In today's video, we're not going to talk about evil in a dramatic or fear-driven way. We're going to look at it gently but clearly through 5 types of people with quietly malicious intent, not to condemn, not to become cold, but to understand, and more importantly, to learn how to protect yourself, to preserve peace of mind like a true practitioner of Stoicism, calm, composed, and unshakably grounded. One Colin manipulator posed as friendly. You'll never see this person raise their voice at you. They don't shout, don't apply overt pressure, and they certainly don't insult you outright. They approach you with kindness, sweet words, and nods of apparent goodwill. But if you pay close enough attention, you'll notice that after every interaction with them, you walk away feeling a little smaller, a little more unsure of yourself, and a little less confident than you were the day before. This is the manipulator disguised as a friend. They don't control you through power. They control you through the illusion that you need them to feel validated. They offer sincere advice that sounds like, "I think you're really talented. It's just that sometimes you come off a bit impulsive. Maybe it's a lack of experience." It sounds well-meaning, but you leave the conversation feeling like you're not enough. What makes this kind of person dangerous is that you don't realize you're being manipulated. They always position themselves as the helper, the one who understands you best, the one who cares. But beneath the surface, they're planting seeds of self-doubt, just enough for you to slowly adjust yourself to fit their comfort. I once knew someone like that. He always praised me during meetings, said I had potential, leadership qualities, but in private meetings with our boss, he'd casually mention that I seemed a bit unstable or might benefit from additional oversight to ensure consistency. I didn't suspect anything at first. I thought it was honest feedback. It wasn't until I began being excluded from major projects that I realized he wasn't trying to help me grow. He was trying to keep me beneath him. He wanted me to believe I needed him, when in truth, the opposite was true. With people like this, Stoicism teaches us to be alert, not angry. Marcus Aurelius never said you should rage against people like this. He said you should observe them like someone watching from the outside, and treat them as training for your clarity and composure. Epictetus once wrote, "You can't control what others say about you, but you can absolutely decide what enters your mind." That's the core lesson. Manipulators don't defeat you through action. They do it with suggestion, with words, with subtle influence on your self-belief. But if you stay clear-headed and grounded in your own worth, their words become nothing more than wind at the door. So if there's someone in your life who makes you trust yourself a little less after every conversation, be cautious. They may not hate you, but they certainly don't want you to be stronger than them. And for a Stoic, the goal isn't to cut them off immediately, but to cultivate inner distance, and to never give anyone the power to define your worth except you. 2. The fake love. The pretender doesn't show up with obvious negativity. They don't hurt you directly. In fact, they make you feel like, "This is the best friend I've ever had." They know how to listen, agree with you, cheer you on. But have you noticed? They only show up when you're at your lowest. And when you start to stand tall again, when you grow stronger, they slowly back away. Or worse, they turn sarcastic. This is the kind of person who only loves the most vulnerable version of you. They want you emotionally dependent on them, but they're never truly happy when you evolve. In the beginning, they'll act like they get you better than anyone, like they're your safe place. But the moment you begin to change, even in healthy, positive ways, they start to distance themselves. You'll hear them say things like, "Wow, you've really changed lately. You're not the same anymore, huh?" As if growth is something to be ashamed of. As if not needing them is a betrayal. They'll often joke in ways that hit where it hurts most, especially in areas you felt insecure. Comments like, "Looking sharp today, trying to turn back the clock, huh?" They'll call it playful. But you know it doesn't feel like love. It feels like something else. Not closeness, but mockery wrapped in a smile. I once had a friend like that. She was there every time I was down, offering comfort, checking in, always available. But as I began finding direction, taking care of myself, cleaning up my life, learning how to say no, she started pulling away. Then came the message, "You've changed so much. Must be hanging with new people now, huh? Forgot about the old ones." It wasn't that I had become cold. I had just stopped feeding her emotional dependency. Stoicism doesn't tell us to cut people like this out with loud declarations. Seneca said it best. Don't hate those who aren't genuine. See them as a test of your clarity and inner steadiness. If you ever need a mirror to see what real kindness looks like, pay attention to how someone treats you when they realize you don't need them anymore. A real friend lifts you up and accepts that you will grow. A pretender only values you when you're down, because that's when they still have emotional leverage over you. Stoic philosophy reminds us, real connection doesn't make you feel smaller. It doesn't make you doubt yourself. And it certainly doesn't guilt-trip you for growing. If someone constantly reminds you of who you used to be, but never acknowledges who you're becoming, they're not cheering for you. They're trying to keep you where they're comfortable. So remember this: you don't owe anyone your stagnation. If someone only loves you when you're weak, that's not friendship. That's dependency, dressed up in affection. And as someone who practices Stoicism, you don't need to make a scene. Just stay quiet, step away, and keep moving in the direction that makes you stronger every single day. 3. The controller. Some people don't scream, "I want to control you." They don't bark orders, use force, or make threats. Instead, they use something much trickier: emotion. And because they speak in the name of love, it's easy to mistake control for care. The emotional controller is often someone close to you, a spouse, a family member, or a longtime friend. They don't forbid you outright. They make suggestions. They don't demand. They worry. They say things like, "I just don't feel right when you hang out with that person," or "You really shouldn't wear that at your age. People will talk," or "You're working so far from home. Aren't you afraid someone might take advantage of you?" It sounds reasonable, it sounds protective, but if you look closely, you'll realize what they're really doing is slowly shrinking your world. Every decision becomes a subtle emotional negotiation. They don't want you independent, they want you reliant on them to feel safe. The most dangerous part, they make you feel guilty for doing things that are simply for you. You want alone time, they get sad. You reconnect with old friends, they go cold. You say no to their request. They quietly withdraw and later mention how disappointed they were. They don't bind you with rope, they bind you with guilt. I once heard a story from a middle-aged woman. She'd been married for 20 years. Her husband never yelled, never used violence. But over time, she had lost all her friendships, given up her hobbies, and stopped doing anything on her own. She told me, "He just wants what's best for me, but I feel like I'm living in a glass cage." That's what Stoics call a prison built from overprotection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Freedom isn't just about chains. It's about not letting your mind be ruled by another person's emotions. When you start shaping your actions based on how someone else might feel, you're living their life, not yours. So if you find yourself needing permission just to be yourself, pause and ask, am I living to keep them calm or to keep myself growing? Someone who truly loves you doesn't need you to be by their side constantly. They want to see you strong, free, and still choosing to come back, not staying because you're emotionally held there. Stoicism doesn't promote rebellion, but it does teach the importance of drawing clear boundaries between care and control, between connection and captivity. You can stay in the relationship, but you don't have to let it define you. You can still love, but not at the cost of losing yourself. As Epictetus said, if something requires you to sacrifice your peace of mind, no matter what it's called, it isn't worth it. 4. The saboteur. Not everyone attacks you with harsh words or obvious behavior. Some people choose a quieter approach. They don't oppose you outright, but they never truly support you either. They don't stop you from succeeding, but they never celebrate you with genuine joy. They're there, right beside you, and yet they're often the first ones to make you question yourself. This type of person often shows up as a longtime friend, a close co-worker, or even a family member. They never do anything obviously wrong, at least not on the surface. But if you pay attention, you'll notice something. Every time you get excited about something, they're the first to bring up the risks, the failures, the reasons why it might not work out. You say, I'm planning to open a small shop. They respond, the economy's tough right now. Everyone opens then shuts down. Just think it through, okay? You say, I'm learning a new skill. They reply, at our age? What's the point? Just relax. They don't forbid you, but they cloud your thoughts with subtle doubt. And the tricky part is, it always comes wrapped in concern. They say it's because they care. They call it being real. But their honesty doesn't empower you. It makes you hesitate, second guess, and sometimes turn back. I once knew someone like that. Every time I was about to try something new, he had advice. Not harsh, not loud, just soft, logical concern. I'm just worried for you. That path's full of pressure. You're doing fine already. Why make things harder? At first I appreciated it, but over time I realized he only showed up when I was about to grow. And each time I'd walk away from those conversations with less clarity and more doubt. The danger of this quiet sabotage is that it looks like friendship, sounds like care, feels like support. And that's why it's so hard to spot. But if every time you share your dreams with someone, you walk away feeling smaller, less excited, less sure of yourself, that's not care anymore. That's emotional control disguised as realism. It's erosion of your spirit in the name of just being honest. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The wise man doesn't need the approval of others to do what's right. He only needs to be sure he's not betraying his own nature." That's one of the deepest truths of Stoicism. Don't let anyone else decide what's right for you, especially not someone who sows doubt in you while pretending it's love. If you notice someone who always brings up what could go wrong, who makes you hesitate more than act, and who never truly stands beside you when you grow, step back. Not because they're evil, but because they may not be ready to see you shine. And that discomfort might drive them, consciously or not, to want you to stay small. Stoicism doesn't teach us to distrust everyone or to coldly sever all relationships, but it does teach this. Clarity of mind is the strongest shield you have. Keep your mind clear like a mirror so you can see who lifts you and who holds you back. And once you see it clearly, you don't need to argue, prove, or explain. You just keep walking with strength while they remain behind. 5. The energy drainer. Not everyone hurts you with cruel words or obvious actions. Some people simply drain you by being there. They don't insult you, criticize you, or control you. But every time you're around them, you feel exhausted, heavy, and sometimes even guilty for feeling that way. The energy drainer is someone who lives in a constant state of negativity. There's always something to complain about, some pain to share, some injustice they've suffered. And while they don't attack you directly, they pull you into a deep emotional pit you don't even realize you're falling into. At first, you think you're just being a good listener. You empathize, you support, you show up. But over time, you start to dread seeing their name pop up on your phone. You avoid meetups, and every time you finish a conversation with them, you sit in silence like you've just been through a storm. They say, "You're the only one I have to talk to." You feel guilty, so you stay. They say, "Nothing ever works out for me. No one really cares." You try to comfort them, but they respond, "It's easy for you to say. You don't understand." Eventually you realize this isn't about finding solutions. They don't want to heal. Pain is their identity, and being the victim is the only way they feel seen. They don't want a lifeline. They want an audience, and unfortunately, that audience is you. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be cold, but it reminds you of one essential truth. You can't fill another's cup if your own is empty. Epictetus once said, "A loving soul isn't the one who carries every burden. It's the one who knows which ones to carry and which to set down." You have the right to stop listening to the same story that's been repeated for years, not because you lack compassion, but because you value your mental well-being. I once had a friend like that. I gave time, energy, support. I listened. I offered advice. I tried everything. But no matter what I said, nothing changed. It became clear this wasn't about growth. They just needed me to validate their suffering, to affirm their victimhood. One day, I stopped. I didn't explode. I didn't cut them off. I simply started pulling back, little by little, creating just enough distance to stay grounded. Not because I was selfish, but because I understood. If I'm completely drained, then my presence is no longer a gift. It's just another empty gesture. Remember, you weren't born to carry the world on your shoulders. You're not obligated to be everyone's savior. Love doesn't require constant sacrifice. And kindness doesn't mean abandoning your boundaries. If someone leaves you constantly depleted, stop and ask yourself, am I helping them, or am I being chained by their pain? And if the answer stings, that's your signal. It's time to step back, reclaim your energy, and draw a new line. Because in the end, as Stoic philosophy always reminds us, if you want to bring light to others, the fire within you has to be burning strong first. After recognizing the types of people with dark intentions, from the smooth manipulator, the emotional pretender, the controlling protector, the subtle saboteur, to the energy drainer, you might ask yourself, so what am I supposed to do with them? Should I cut them off, avoid them, confront them, speak up, stay silent? There's no one-size-fits-all answer. But there is a clear direction. Respond like a Stoic. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be rigid or emotionally cold. It teaches you to respond with intention. That means not getting pulled into someone else's emotional game, not letting their negativity change who you are, and most importantly, not allowing their toxicity to become the reason you lose your inner peace. With manipulators, stay alert. Observe their words like an outsider watching a scene unfold, instead of getting tangled in their subtle web of implications. Ask yourself, am I acting from my own values or from their quiet influence? With emotional pretenders, don't try to explain yourself or fix the relationship. You don't have to prove that you haven't changed or that you still care. Those who are genuinely for you will be happy when you grow. Those who aren't will try to make you feel guilty for moving forward. You don't need to apologize for evolving. You just need to keep moving in the direction that aligns with who you truly are. With controllers, stay calm and clear. Don't respond with anger. Say calmly, I appreciate your concern, but this decision is mine. I'll take responsibility for it. A Stoic doesn't need approval to do what's right. They only need clarity within themselves. With subtle saboteurs, you don't need to expose or accuse them. Just maintain distance. When you stop sharing your most valuable thoughts with them, they'll fade on their own. You don't need applause from people waiting for you to fail. Focus on your own steps, because that's what you truly control. And with energy drainers, remember, kindness doesn't require burnout. You can still be compassionate and present, but with limits. Learn to say, "I need space today. I'll listen when I'm ready." That's not selfishness. That's self-regulation. And self-regulation is the bedrock of Stoic practice. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you're angry at someone, ask yourself, have I given them the power to control my mind?" That's the reminder every Stoic must hold close. Every time your peace is shaken, whether it's anger, pain, or disappointment, pause and ask yourself, am I choosing this reaction, or am I being dragged into it? The highest form of freedom in Stoicism isn't about removing toxic people because they will always exist. It's about mastering your response to them. You can walk away from a provoking conversation without losing your calm. You can choose not to retaliate, not to explain, not to justify, and still know that you've done what's right. Because in the end, toxic people only win when they make you lose yourself. And the Stoic never lets that happen. So if you've started to recognize these patterns in the people around you, don't be afraid. You don't need to change them. You only need to change your response to them. And once you do that, you've taken a powerful step forward on the path of mastering your life with the calm strength of a true Stoic. Don't waste your time trying to change toxic people. And don't blame yourself for letting them into your life. See them instead as a test, one that helps you grow, gain clarity, and build self-mastery. Every time you hold a boundary, every time you choose silence over reaction, every time you step away peacefully, you move one step closer to inner freedom. And if there's one thing you should carry with you after this video, it's this. You don't need to beat them. You just need to make sure they don't pull you down. When you choose peace over reaction, when you choose to move forward instead of staying for validation, you've already won in the calmest and most powerful way. Thank you for watching until the end. If this video resonated with you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you think might need to hear this. I'll see you in the next Stoic lesson, where you'll be reminded that peace isn't found out there. It begins with how you see and respond to the world.